Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Gunnedah Hospital Redevelopment webinar. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Stephen Joyce, and I'm actually the Health Services Manager here at Gunnedah Hospital. I've been here since January. It's actually my pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar on the Gunnedah Hospital Redevelopment project. First of all, I'd like to introduce Lachlan Falconer Adams from the project team, and Lachlan's going to deliver the acknowledgement of country for us.
Thanks, Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lachlan Falconer Adams, and I'm the Health Infrastructure Project Director on the redevelopment. I'm also a proud Kamilaroi man whose family grew up in Gunnedah. I'm very excited to be part of the project. I'd like to kick us off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Gunnedah people, and the Kamilaroi mob, and to all the owners of the land upon which we meet today. Pay my respects to elders past, present, and to any emerging leaders with us today. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Lachlan. Appreciate it. Just before we jump in, just a quick piece of housekeeping. So there are a number of people online today. So we just ask anyone that has access to speak, if you just remain on mute when you're not talking, just gives everyone a chance. Down the bottom of your screen, you will see where you can actually submit questions. So if you can submit questions through that process, we'll endeavour to answer them towards the end. The session today is actually being recorded and it will be made available after this session has finished. And I'd also like to just thank you all in advance for your support and participation in what is an exciting time for Gunnedah. I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Ramsey Aud. Ramsey is the Executive Director of Infrastructure Planning and Sustainability for Hunter New England Local Health District. Over to you, Ramsey.
Thank you, Stephen. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I'm excited to see that we've got nearly 100 people coming online, which is wonderful for us. I'm just organising control here. So just to introduce myself, my role, I work for Hunter New England Health. I've been to Gunnedah many times and will be coming up regularly as part of this project. My role, I sit on the executive and report to the Chief Executive of Hunter New England Health, and I have overarching responsibility for all construction projects that occur in Hunter New England Health. So just quickly through our agenda today, I'm going to spend the first few minutes taking you through the steps of designing and building this hospital. And I'm going to give you an idea of what our timelines are, but more importantly, I'm going to walk through what the consultation process is going to be and how the community and staff are going to be involved throughout the process. Then we'll hand over to Mark Brockbank, who is from Health Infrastructure. Mark's going to introduce you to the project team, the people who will be there pretty much for the next few years, working with staff and community and pulling this project together. Then we're going to talk to Cameron Martin. Cameron is the architect for this project. There's been lots of work done to date on the master planning, and I'll explain what master planning is in a moment. But Cameron's going to take you through in quite a fair bit of detail about the information that we've collected to date and what the next steps are to complete the master planning phase. And then at the end, we will have some questions. There will be, there's the question forum, and there are some questions flowing through now. We'll endeavour to answer as many as we can. So the design journey and consultation. Before I get into the detail of this, I just wanted to flag a couple of things with those of you online. One is whenever we talk about infrastructure, there's always a question around resources and staffing. We are very conscious at Hunter New England Health and locally regarding the difficulties in attracting staff, primarily in the clinical area, to operate and work and live in rural areas. This is not a problem that is unique to Hunter New England. It is a problem that's unique to the whole country. It's something that is very high on our agenda at the executives, and with Susan Heyman, who's I'm sure a number of you know is our Executive Director of Operations for New England. And it is something that we will work on in parallel with developing this project over the next few years. I just want to acknowledge that up front, that we are constructing this building, yes, but in parallel we'll be working on ensuring we have the right level of staffing and expertise in the facility once it's done. The other item I wanted to touch on is COVID. I know you guys are right in the middle of it, unfortunately, and I'm sorry about that. COVID has impeded us in terms of our ability to get there. Nearly all of us, including in Newcastle and all of our project team, have been in lockdown and have been unable to travel. The good news is it hasn't impeded us in terms of doing this phase. We have not lost any time in undertaking the master planning phase. The architects and Cameron will talk about some of the innovative ways they've been able to overcome our inability to come to Gunnedah. But our intention is, once the restrictions lift, we'll be there and hopefully start meeting a number of you face-to-face and starting to build those important relationships with you. And finally, just to make the point that this project is about Gunnedah, it is about your community. The last thing we want people to feel is that people from outside of Gunnedah are coming in to deliver the project. We come in to work side by side, the staff and the community, in delivering a project. And there's always a level of nervousness that comes with these projects and a level of suspicion. We work very closely with a number of rural communities. We've done so successfully in Inverell recently, and we're starting in Moree and Glen Innes. And we really hope that this is a positive experience with the community and the staff, and this is we achieve a wonderful positive outcome for the community. So let's get into some slides. If it will work for me, here we go. So the clinical service planning, that's a phase we've already finished. Our Chief Executive, Michael D'Orienzo, came and presented to a number of stakeholders a few months ago before lockdowns. That essentially outlines what are the services this community needs now into the future. The phase that we're in now is master planning. Very simply, that is, where can this new hospital be built on this site? It's extra difficult on this particular site because, as you can imagine, we have to maintain the operations of the existing hospital while building the new hospital, and Cameron will take you through some of the early thinking around that. The next phase, and this is where we get into the design aspects of it, this is where architects start to come and sit and talk to the staff, is the concept design, and that starts to move some very big pieces on the site. Where does the emergency department sit in relation to the operating theatre, and where does operating theatre sit next in relation to recovery? And they start to move some very big pieces around on a piece of paper, so it doesn't get into the detail at that stage. Then they move into what we call schematic design, which is then designing the detail around the emergency department. So where is the resuscitation bay? Where is the adult bay? Where is the paediatric bay? Where are the dirty utility rooms and so forth? So they start to design the flow of each department. So that's what happens in schematic design. And then they move into detailed design, and that is designing the specifics of individual rooms. So they will look at the operating theatre. Where are the pendants? Where's the gas points? Where are the lights? What colour are the walls? And they get into that level of detail. Then we're going to achieve all of that we're targeting mid-2023. Then we move into the construction phase. And you can see there that we're targeting early to mid-2025 that the building will be open for use. Now, at these early stages, we're very conservative with our timeframes because we're not sure what we're going to discover. We always work very hard to deliver the projects early. Maitland Hospital, which is our $500 million project here, was delivered nearly 12 months earlier than we predicted. So these are conservative dates, and we would hope to be able to deliver that project a little bit earlier. This is where we are in this journey. We are part of the way through master planning. And it's an important time for us to come and touch base with the community. We were actually hoping to do it in person, and we're sort of hoping that things would lift in terms of restrictions, but haven't been able to do that, which we apologise about. Now, there are a number of inputs that go into each of these phases. And what I'm going to just run you through at the top there is where the staff and community will start to get involved and the information we collect. So there's detailed site analysis, which Cameron will take you through. This is where now in this phase over the next few weeks, we will establish a series of consultative committees. They'll be made up of staff groups, community groups, Aboriginal groups. They will be groups that exist for the entire life of the project and that we will continually go back and forth with to seek input and advice regarding the design and the progress of the project. And that next step point, commencing our community presentations. This is the first in the master planning phase, and there'll be many more as we progress. We're going to start establishing some communication strategies like a project website and newsletters and drop-in centres as we progress. And the output from all of that work is the master plan, which Cameron will sort of give you an idea of what that might look like by way of example, not the real one yet, because we've still got a lot of work to do. The concept design, those consultative committees we've set up, they will start getting involved in the design sessions. You know, some of the big things people are interested in at these early stages is where parking is, how transport will tie into the site, where are the roads, what roads should they come off, and how the people can flow through the site. And we will again consult a number of times through that process, and we'll get a concept design at the end of that, which we will of course share with you all. Then in the schematic design phase, one of the things we do here in Hunter, New England, which is unique to the state, is what we do emotional design brief, which is often architects design things for a clinical response, which is what they should do, but we spend a lot more time interviewing patients and staff and carers that utilise spaces, particularly in birthing suites and areas where patients spend a lot of time, and ensure that the design of those spaces respond to the emotional needs of the people in there. And in future presentations, we'll share some of the work that we've done in other parts of the district, which is exceptional. We'll also start working with people in the community around some of the more public spaces like main entries and some of the public amenities that are going to exist. And then when we move into detailed design, this is the opportunity for the community to play a big role in our arts and history program. So we always recognise what's come before us, be it an older hospital and the staff, and we will incorporate a very comprehensive art program, and we'll invite a number of our community people in to assist us with that. And the other important thing is wayfinding, how, it's a fancy word for how people get to the hospital, and then how do they get around the hospital once they get in. And that is important because us working in the hospital system think things are obvious in terms of getting there and getting around. They're not obvious to many in our community. So it's an area where we rely heavily on the community to advise us about how best to get around. Once we get into the construction, we in Hunter, New England work very hard to ensure that there's a local employment program. So we provide opportunities often for people who have been long-term unemployed. That's a program that we run uniquely in Hunter, New England to get them some experience with our builder. We work hard to engage with local contractors, suppliers to ensure that the money that comes in to build this hospital is kept within the actual community. And there'll be a number of sort of ceremonial opportunities for staff and community to engage, like turning the first sod. There'll be tours and there'll be an opening ceremony, of course. So there's a lot more detail behind that, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what the major areas and touch points will be throughout the project. And at the end, we hope to deliver you an exceptional building. I'm going to introduce Mark Brockbank. Mark is the Director of Rural and Regional for Health Infrastructure. Health infrastructure, whenever we have a major project in New South Wales Health infrastructure play a senior role in partnering with the district and the local staff to help deliver that project. They have exceptional expertise in delivering large-scale project, and Mark is probably the best person they have working for him. So we're incredibly lucky to have him on this project, and he's a good man despite coming from South Africa. He's embedded himself in rural New South Wales, and I'll hand over to Mark now to introduce the rest of the team.
Thank you, Ramsey. I trust you all can hear me. Thank you for the introduction, Ramsey, and thank you for your comprehensive presentation regarding the program and the process. I'm pleased to be representing Health Infrastructure today on this project and joining you on this virtual update. To support the planning of the project, we have pulled together a genuinely skilled team for the project, and they will be working alongside Ramsey's team, the John and the Hunter New England team, and they'll be working with you and in the community. So I'd like to introduce you. Obviously, you've met Stephen at the beginning of this presentation, and the staff partner organizations and local community groups, as Ramsey discussed. Staff partner organizations and local community groups will be involved in the design and journey and consultation through the project, and that's very important to us. And we look forward to actually meeting you and the community live one day, face to face, in Gunnedah as the COVID pandemic settles down. So you've met Ramsey, supported the Hunter New England team is supported by Susan Heyman, who's the Executive Director of Rural Regional Health Services, Anna Stiles, Maria Stape, and Connie Matthews. Connie Matthews is a facility planner who will be the point person from the district on the ground. I'm sure you'll see a lot of Connie and the team. My team at Health Infrastructure, Jackie Hawkins is a Senior Project Director who oversees a number of projects in the region. Lochner Faulkner Adams will be involved very much in most of the project. You'll see a lot of Lochner, and as when he presented at the beginning, he's very passionate about this project. He has strong links to Gunnedah, and he's one of the good guys. And Kylie Neville, our communications and engagement lead. Again, Kylie being a local in the New England region from Glen Innes, very much engaged, and you'll see a lot of Kylie as well. From our project team, we have Ranbury project managers led by Sue Folliott. Sue has lots of experience in delivering hospitals in regional New South in the regions, and recently has been involved in the Tweed Valley Hospital project, which is in construction now. So Sue has comes with a lot of experience, and her team supports her as well. So I think we have a very strong project manager. In terms of the architect, we have Cameron Martin, who will be presenting to you shortly. Cameron and I have done a lot of hospitals in the past together. We have a great relationship. Cameron's a great communicator, and I think when we be able to meet face to face and have working sessions, you'll see that Cameron is very productive and very pragmatic, and we look forward to working together. Altus is our cost manager, led by Barry Macbeth. They're the guys who run the purse strings in the background. Also a very important role, but not so much front facing as the others. So I'll introduce you to Cameron. Cameron will now present his work to date in the master planning. So over to you, Cameron. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, everyone. What I'm about to go through is, as Ramsey's mentioned to you, what I'm going through is some slides that show you what we've been doing with master planning. Master planning is the foundation of everything that we do. Usually, when we start the master planning site, we visit the site and we walk around the site. We get to know the staff. and unfortunately that hasn't been possible at the moment because of COVID restrictions. We're all obviously in lockdown. But what we've done is we've managed to find ways to get to know the site without actually visiting the site, apart from the time that we visited before the COVID lockdown started. So what we've done is we've managed to get a whole series of aerial photographs completed. So these were carried out about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, and they go from, and I'm just showing a snapshot of them. They go from quite high level ones. So this one here, you can see the Rural Health Service, the hospital with the entrance and the emergency department, the aged care over to one side, and then the ambulance station at the rear. And I guess what this has done is we've got both the high level ones and also detailed ones, and that allows us to actually understand where the buildings are, how they sit on the site, with things like, for example, there's a culvert that runs through here, which is where there's a lot of water, and when it rains, that gets full of water. And we can understand that from the photographs, but we've also managed to get a whole series of the existing drawings together from the hospital, from the archives, and we've sat down with Stephen and some of the staff, and we've actually almost had a virtual walkthrough of the building. So it's really important that when we're doing master planning, we have to understand the site. This is crucial to what we're doing, so we understand everything that's in the site, everything that's around the site. Because we are just doing this master plan for the current scheme, but we've also got to think of the future as well, and what the site can be used for, etc. As we move through it. So obviously that's the hospital site. What we start off with is, and I'll just run through some of the slides that we've done, just to give you an idea of the amount of work that we do. So you can see that the red box, which has got the dotted lines on it, that's the site I've just showed you there. That's the Gunnedah Hospital site. So we look at the planning legislation to let us know what the land is zoned for, what we can do with the heights, what we can do with the land, what we can do with everything round about it. We then look at things like the flood mapping. So that's a map of the area. Again, the red box is the site. That shows you where the 1 in 100 year flood is. So obviously we wouldn't be building a hospital in a flood zone. So it's clear that it's not in a flood zone, which is great. We then look at ownership, title ownership. So what we found in here is that this site is under one title, and it's got the one owner, but it's subdivided into three. It's subdivided into the Gunnedah Hospital portion, which has got the Rural Health Service and Gunnedah Hospital ambulance station in it, and the second portion is the Alkira Nursing Home, and the third portion is the Lions Park. Now, what's also important about this is that we've found that I talked to you earlier about the easement for the drainage channel that runs through the site, sort of cutting Lions Park off from Alkira Nursing Home. So that area of land that's not really built on is not built on for a reason. That's because there's a large drainage easement that gets full of water, and that gives us ideas. All these slides just give us lots of little clues, so we can put a jigsaw puzzle of the building together, and it tells us where things could be and where things shouldn't be. And we have to keep an open mind as well. So obviously we look at site analysis, where the summer sun is, where the winter sun is, where the wind comes from, how much rainfall there is on site, where the high parts of the site, where the low parts of the site are. And it might sound very obvious, but it's really important to actually document this for everyone to understand it. Again, site levels, if you look at the site, you would probably think that it's a level site. But if you look at the actual mapping that we have, RL, which is the relative level according to sea levels, RL of 280 at one part of the site, and where the drainage channel is 276. That means there's a 4 metre fall across the site. And there's also little steps between each of the buildings. So the site isn't flat, so we've got to take that into account and think about what we do and what we do in the future as well. And you can see the black lines are really contours of how the site falls down. Other things to look at is how the site and also the surroundings, how the site and the surroundings are actually met with each other. How do you get to site? Where is the main entrances? Where is the service entrances? Where's the food deliveries? Where does the ambulances go, etc., etc. We've got to understand all of these because they all every link into the site represents something, and it also tells us where the busier roads are and where the less busy roads are, because obviously we don't want to have an entrance to a hospital off of a really busy road. We'd rather have it off a quieter road so there's easy access in and out of it. So again, it's just building a picture of what actually goes on in the site. Similarly, we look at the interior of the site, where the cars are, and that's public car parks. So there's the blue dots are public car parks. The yellow dots are ambulance access and loading docks, and so that's the red dots are the ambulances, and the yellow ones are the loading docks. So again, just understanding how the site works at present is really, and how the departments work within each other is very important for what we do moving on for the future. Similarly, we've done a lot of investigations into site infrastructure. Obviously, we want to put the investment into buildings and clinical spaces. We don't want to have to redo site infrastructure. And what this has shown us is that the main switchboard is off Reservoir Street, and that's the main generator and switchboard, which basically powers the whole site. And the fire hydrant booster is at the corner of Marquee and Reservoir Street as well. And also within that, there's lots of information about hydraulic services, medical gases, where that's located and how that affects where we could put new buildings and gas services, etc. So all of this is, you can see, starting about a layer of pictures together that we will use when we're doing master planning. We also look at the existing site buildings, because the existing site and the relationships between spaces are very important. So it's obviously the site has got the rural health centre with its entrance and its drop off. It's got Gunnedah Hospital with its associated services. It's got the nursing home, the ambulance station, and the Lions Park. And it's how these fit together is really important. And just to give you an example, it's a high level zone, and it's just high level. It shows you that obviously the rural health service is located there. At the front of the site, looking onto Marquis Street, there's administration and support services. So that's largely administrative and consult suites, etc. And back of house activities like the works department and the switchboard and the kitchen, etc. Everything's in that zone. And at the middle of the site is where the clinical services are. So that's where all the wards are, where the emergency department are, where all the things that happen clinically are. And then at the rear, we've got the ambulance station and staff accommodation. So again, that's just building more and more of the picture of what is there at present, which will help us move forward with what we want to do in the future. So that's just a small snapshot of what we've been doing. We put together a large master plan report, and that includes a whole bunch of other disciplines as well, not just architect. We have town planners and mechanical engineers and electrical engineers, etc. And we all work on this site analysis, which drives the master plan. So the next step that we're moving into at the present is actually looking at looking at putting things on site. Looking at master planning basically is a site analysis which I've just talked you through, plus adding onto that the zonal relationships of the departments that we require from the clinical services plan that Ramsey talked about into a coherent master plan. And we will probably do a number of master plan options, and we will then gradually, with consultation, move those down into a preferred option, which then develops on through concept design again, which Ramsey talked about in more detail. So the idea is that what we will have is we'll have, as this diagram shows on the bottom right hand side, it's a different site, but that's the sort of level of detail that we'll get to. And the red zone will mean something. It could be clinical, it could be administration. The green zone will mean something, and the yellow zone will mean something as well. And that's what we end up with as a master plan zone. And on the top right hand side, you can see those zones have relationships to each other. So it's basically a layer of information that comes down and eventually end up with the master plan, which is where we're heading to. Ramsey, I think I'll pass that. I think that's about everything. I'll pass on to you, Ramsey.
Thank you, Cameron. I hope that was helpful. Just jump forward to the next slide, Cameron, so people don't need to look at my big head. Thank you. Thanks for that, Cameron. I think it's important to sort of start to get a sense of what's involved in the master planning. You can see now that there's a lot of information to gather to try to make some rational decisions around this, and it's not a straight line making a decision of where you build this hospital. The project team needs to take into account the construction aspects. Where can you build? We need to take in the operational aspects of how do we maintain facilities and construct new facilities. So there's a number of elements which come together to help make some decisions. And as Cameron said, once they've developed some options and ideas, we'll come back to this group and we'll have another session where Cameron will take you through the logic, because it's important for everyone to understand why certain decisions are being made based on the data that's collected. So there's a whole stack of questions that have come through, which is great, and I'm going to just try to spend a bit of time answering what we can. But what we're going to do, any questions we can't actually get to, we're going to develop some written answers and send it back to the group where we can't get to them, unfortunately. So will we be consulted through the project? Of course, and there's a question around nursing staff consultation. I hope I covered that in my couple of slides there. There will be extensive consultation with our clinical staff, our non-clinical staff. We spend a lot of time with our maintenance people as well. We'll spend time with ambulance staff, all the people that interact with the hospital regularly. There are a whole raft of community groups that we are collecting. We know a number of them already, and we'll be establishing engagement strategies with them throughout the life of the project. A couple of questions which are similarly themed is, does the design include furnishings, gas terminals, etc.? Yes, absolutely it does. How much of the budget is allocated to landscaping and external aesthetic? We always have a budget for landscaping to ensure the building works and looks good, but also it holds the building together. You just can't leave dirt. So there will be a budget allocation for that. Our priority, though, is always to provide the clinical services, and that's where a lot of our budget goes. But of course, things like parking and landscaping that working with the local area and the environment there is important. A question about Aboriginal participation in construction. There's a policy around that. Yes, of course, we will be applying that. Additional services at the hospital. So every service that exists at the hospital now is continuing. No, we're not losing any services. In addition to the existing services, we will be constructing spaces for chemotherapy and renal dialysis. I think we've said at the Chief Executive said at their presentation, the challenge of getting staff to run those services is what we are tackling now, and I know that there's lots of work trying to work through that at the moment. A question around whether the building will be 2 or 3 stories. Look, we can't speculate until Cameron has done his work, and we'll see what comes out of that. Question around emergency parking, that it's a mess. Again, what Cameron's work will do is work through those flows so people flow and enter the building very easily. A question here, staff were consulted for the last refurb but not listened to. Look, we hope that won't occur in this particular project. I can assure you that we will work very closely with the community, and you have a strong advocate in Stephen as the service manager there, and there'll be a number of other staff that are involved with that project. And myself, the person responsible for the district to deliver these hospitals, take consultation incredibly seriously, and we'll work very hard on ensuring that everyone's listened to, and if we can't accommodate people, we'll tell you why. There's a couple of questions here about drainage, which I'll leave for someone else to answer in the future. A question around accommodation for workforce. Yes, it's one of the things we will look at. It's actually a strategy we are looking at for the entire district. Hunter New England Health, in my team, we've developed a strategy to develop quality accommodation for clinicians, nursing, allied health and doctors. So one of the things that other rural hospitals, and one of the strategies we employ in Hunter New England, is having staff come in for short periods of time to run certain clinics or to do locums for us. Having local accommodation potentially on campus or near campus is incredibly important, and that is part of our agenda for this project. There has been some criticism about the slow pace of the project. How is it progressing compared to similar projects? Look, I think the timelines we presented with the Chief Executive may have outlined in his presentation at the early year, we're still on track. Look, there is always a time period from when a project is announced for it to get through the machinations of government, which don't sit at the district level. They don't even sit at New South Wales Health. There is a process that occurs at a Treasury level. Our project is moving very quickly, I think, compared to a number of other projects. And Gunnedah was given a priority to, and was actually given some additional funding to accelerate the planning, and we've used that money very wisely, and despite COVID, I think we are still very much on time and progressing quite well. There's a question here about preference to recruit permanent staff rather than locum staff. Absolutely. Look, anywhere we can get permanent staff and is always the preference for us, because we want people to have and build roots in the community, because their ability to stay there for the long term is our preference. Locum staff are used where we have no other choice, and where patients and community actually need the care, then we do what we can. Our absolute preference is always permanent staff. There are a few other questions there, which I think what we're going to try to do, some of them are very similar, is try to wrap them up in some responses there. I know Kevin Anderson's online, and I was going to just throw to Kevin very quickly to sort of just close out the meeting for us, but I hope that has been worthwhile. Look, can I just say, it's incredibly difficult for us to present online, as I assume it is very difficult for you guys to listen online. It's very hard to get that interaction and a bit of back and forth going. So I do really apologise about that. The project team is desperate to get out there, and we hope that we can do these sessions in the future face to face, and we can have some real back and forth. As I said, I really hope that you see this as a positive to the community. If you don't, then please let us try to work hard to change that perception. And I ask that you all try to look at this as a real wonderful opportunity for the community. Kevin, are you there?
I am, Ramsey. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. And sorry, there's one more question there about change in Premier, and will the project is guaranteed to continue? Absolutely. This project has, it's been approved and it's progressing. So just one last question then. So Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, look, thank you, Ramsey, and sincerely appreciate the opportunity to connect with you today and the project team. This is a very exciting project for Gunnedah, a $53 million project. As you know, hospitals are so important to communities. Quite often it's the place where they were born, and you know, their families are born and then cared for, and may be the end of life as well. So it's a whole of life connection with a particular piece of infrastructure like the hospital. That's why it's so important to our communities. And I think that to be able to see today the plan going forward and what does it look like, I think it's incredibly important. I want to thank everybody who's been on today, and I know there's been a lot of people. It's very difficult in this format to be able to see who's on, and normally in different formats online you can get a bit of a sense on who's there. But you know, there's certainly Gunnedah councillors. I know Mayor Jamie Chaffey is there today. Doctors who were working today were hoping to come and join us when they had finished their procedures, and we're very grateful for that. Prams was another important invitation, purely because one part, Ramsey, that I think I'd like to talk about is around the maternity sections, birthing suites. A lot of that was volunteer fundraising. A lot of families donated items to that particular section that they would like to see maybe transferred across to the new hospital as well. So that's all that stuff that does need to be taken on board when we talk about that community consultation. And in addition to that, I know Red Cross, the CWA and the Gunnedah Business Chamber are online today as well. And as you said, there was about 100 people online. That's a clear indication to me of how important this process is and what this project, this $53 million project, will mean to the Gunnedah community. So we are a growing community, there's no doubt about that. So to have the facility that we've all been able to have some role to play in terms of suggestions through consultation is really, really important. So just want to thank you for bringing it together today. I want to thank everybody online for coming together today as well. And certainly, given the current situation that we find ourselves in coming out of stay-at-home orders on Sunday at midnight, this is the reason why we need a good health service. This is the reason why we need 5-star facilities. I firmly believe that you build it and they will come. And if you can provide the facilities, then that puts a shining spotlight on the great facility that will be Gunnedah, and others will want to come, particularly clinicians and medical staff will want to come to Gunnedah, and that will help boost our numbers. So thanks, Ramsey. I just wanted to quickly pass that on. And lastly, the question I had there was local builders. We want to make sure our construction teams get an opportunity to work on what will be a significant showpiece for our region. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Kevin. And look, I'm going to throw to your local manager, Stephen Joyce, to do a final thank you and goodbye. And we will all see you soon. And there's been a few other questions flow in, and we will try to put together, well, we will put together some written words around that. So Stephen, back to you, and thank you all sincerely from the entire project team for allowing us to talk here today.
And Ramsey, just one last, we'll just need a timeline on next steps on what our community can expect to see coming up next.
Sure. So look, just to answer that very quickly, the master planning phase that was described by Cameron, we are hoping to have that wrapped up by the end of this year, and maybe early next year. This lockdown in Gunnedah now is just, you know, as everyone can understand, we're just on the precipice of whether we can actually come and present or come very early in the new year. But that is our timeline in there, and it just depends on how we go with Christmas and what else is happening across the state. But within a few weeks of that, we should be talking to you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Ramsey. Just finally, I'd just like to stress, just highlight what we've talked about already. I think staff engagement and community engagement is very important as part of this project, and we'll most certainly be making sure that actually happens. So everyone that's here at the moment, and everyone that's out there in the community will actually have a voice throughout this project. This is a hospital for Gunnedah, it's for Gunnedah staff, and it's for Gunnedah residents, so everyone needs to be able to have a say. I'd just like to thank you all for coming along today. Thank you to all the presenters for passing on the information. As you heard before, hopefully we can do this face-to-face again in the not too distant future as we step away from COVID. If anyone has any questions, most of you know where I am, have contact details, happy to chat at any stage, happy to answer your questions if need be, but otherwise we'll try and get that list of questions out that still remain, and make sure that we provide as much information for everyone as possible. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy your rest of your Friday afternoon, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.